Hey, welcome everybody to 40 Finance Channel. Just doing a quick check-in here as we're kicking off the week with another down day. So we were kind of wondering, going into this basically bank earnings week, which was supposed to be good for banks with treasury yields going up and interest rates going up. But what we saw out of a couple of the big banks anyway was that not so good news and potential weakness, set the bar, I guess you would say, for potential weakness in earnings going forward. Banks are a whole nother animal. I don't think they influence the potential for, say, tech stocks and retail stocks, consumer discretionary. I don't think those are really, I don't think bank stocks allude to where those are going to land earnings-wise, but nonetheless, it was kind of interesting. I just sort of assumed myself that the banks would come out and just have a great day. So not so much, although I do believe I saw like Wells Fargo did very well in their earnings report. So there's a couple in there, but there was also a couple that did not do so well. Then, let's see, here's what we got today. Most notably, at the top of the line here, S&P 500 minus 1.73. You got the NASDAQ now well below 2% for the day. And we've talked a million times right here about the Dow and how it was mildly immune to most of this weakness. But lately, even it's gotten picked off a couple times. And we're certainly seeing that today. Russell 2000, small caps cannot find a win to save their life, and that looks like that will continue. Crude oil, big jump up there. A lot of people talking about $90+ a barrel. That would be very good for oil stocks, particularly if you ever saw a situation where they got into triple digits. I think that that's the bull case for oil stocks, in my opinion. I think 80 or below is about where oil stocks are fairly valued as of today. What else we got? Gold, silver, not much there. I didn't look at, there's Bitcoin. That's one I didn't look at yet today. So below 42,000, it's been lower than that. And here's your 10-year bond. Getting close. I'm anxious to see what happens when it crosses the 2% threshold, which, it's pretty safe to assume that day's coming. And it's not that 2% means really much more than just the math behind it, but it's kind of like an emotional barrier, in my opinion. All right, so out of all the negativity, I thought I would highlight who is doing good today, at least to kick things off. Then we'll talk about the losers. What's going on, Trevor Johnson, Stanley Song? Thanks for typing into the chat. And at the top of the board, we're sorted here by market cap. Activision Blizzard, of course, the biggest news of the day, being acquired by Microsoft. I personally think it's a great deal for both sides. And, I did a whole video about it, and that comes out tonight. But the short version, in case you don't get a chance to see it, I like the Activision deal. I think you're basically buying a beaten-up asset and hoping to build it for the future. And I think Activision goes nowhere under its current management, and this deal will likely eliminate that management slowly over time. So that's a quick take on that. More to come this evening when I post that video. And then, outside of Activision Blizzard, we saw some pickup in video game stocks, Electronic Arts, up a little bit. And I think you're just getting that news that's saying, hey, the big boys are interested in these companies, right? That they are taking video games seriously. So I would imagine, without looking, just about everybody in video games, I see Ubisoft down here. I imagine everybody got a minor boost to their video game stocks, is just my guess. Because what we're seeing now with Microsoft, and I'm sure there'll be more to come, is that, hey, there is a lot of value here. people are no longer just blowing off video game stocks. So this should be a big win for those who hold those. All right. Let's get into the losers. As far as from a top-down market cap approach, Facebook at the top, if I remember correctly, they had a headline on top of the stock market weakness. They additionally had a headline that, investigations are still going on with the government, whatever that means. TSM, surprising to see them down. The semiconductors in general are down today. NVIDIA, let's see, Tencent, JP Morgan, Bank of America. Let's try to pick this off in terms of percentage change. And then that's always hard because you get a lot of these rinky-dink stocks in here. But let's see if we can find somebody at least in the billions. Cricket, interesting one here because they make the special type of printer, not a 3D printer, but more like a craft printer. And they had been on a really good run, and my guess would have been that the fourth quarter was big for them. Let's see if we can pull a news headline here. CFO transition. I don't know. Let's see when their earnings are. They haven't posted yet. So you see the fair value, and you kind of see where this one was trading. I'm surprised to see it down so much today. I don't know. There could be something else behind the scenes that I'm not aware of. EverCommerce. It's so hard to sort by percentage change because you just get so many goofy little stocks. Riot Blockchain down. I recognize that. AMC taking a dip. And we've got, there's Moderna. Not sure what the problem is there. Looking for, I don't know. Those are the big ones, but I think at the end of the day, Applied Materials, Sofi continues to lose, Rivian continues to lose. Sony, this is surprising. You have to wonder if that's in response to Microsoft gaining into their territory. That's just a guess. I don't know that for sure. Solar, is solar down? Solar's been hit hard. Let's see some of these other names in solar. Yeah, Enphase under 140, Solar Edge, almost minus 5%. Solar's getting hit because there's two things going on in solar that I'll touch on very quickly that I've been watching. The first thing is that some of the kind of kickbacks that people were receiving in states like Florida for doing a solar install and subsequently selling their extra energy back into the grid, they no longer get like the retail premium on that. I don't know if that's signed yet, but that's the proposal. So however you calculated your solar system, if you have this extra energy, you can send it back to the grid and you would get retail prices, right? What they would sell it for. And something's going on, a regulation of some kind where the amount of money they would receive actually goes down. So net negative for the homeowner, net negative for the value of installing a solar system. So that's one thing that's going on. The other thing, too, is, of course, the Build Back Better program was going to have a lot of stuff in it for solar energy, renewable in general. And that's just kind of in nowhere land right now as far as legislation getting passed. And then the third thing is there's all of a sudden this hoopla around uranium / nuclear energy perhaps being the best alternative for the large conglomerates, so the huge energy companies, Duke Energy, stuff like that. These are just headlines I've read. I haven't dug in, but the nuclear energy is interesting. There's a new way to do it where you don't have the big smokestacks and stuff. I'm not an engineer, but if you're interested in reading more, do some searches on Google. All right, so I'm going to say hi to everybody. Lion, good to see you. At least POTUS, at least the POTUS 45 is doing me well. Oh, okay, so he was in the Trump stocks. I think, are those still SPACs? I'm not even sure. Raj, view on Microsoft. Yep. I mentioned it. Raj, I'll have a video tonight. I've already recorded it. Just to not leave you guys hanging though, I like the acquisition and I see it as a long-term play. I do not see it influencing the 2022 price of Microsoft or, most likely not even 23 or 24. It would be a longer-term game, which of course Microsoft always is. But I like it. I personally like it. Derek Ridling, good to see you. I see you're excited just like me. Guys, you got to get a little excited about this stuff if you're an investor. And I don't want to, I'm losing money too, just like everybody else. But when you see stuff like this come up, it's obviously opportunities to buy, and we've talked a lot about the fact that you don't need to buy everything in one day, and I think that just continues to be reiterated as we look at the SPY just year to date. I have no vision that the SPY at 457 is the bottom. I really don't. I don't know what the bottom really is. Is it like is it another 10% from here bringing you down to 410? I don't know. And I don't know who does. But at the same token, getting these little bits and pieces at money like this and setting up for the future, I think is a good thing, because at the end of the day, most companies, the big dogs, are still printing money, okay? If you look at it from terms of earnings per share across the SPY, across the Qs, across the whatever, they're all doing well. They're gonna keep growing, and they are going to keep growing at the top and the bottom line. So yeah, are you going to get a stretched valuation? Probably not. That's what it looks like is happening here. But if you get a fair valuation for Microsoft when you start your position, there's no doubt that company is going to keep growing revenues and keep growing EPS. That's just all it is. It's just very simple. And I would say the same about everything in FANG M, likely the same in Tesla. You're not going to get that same valuation multiple. And you can go down the line on a million names in the Qs and say, yep, AMD, throw Intel in there. They're all going to grow their revenues and bottom line profits for the foreseeable future. And arguably, if you factor normal times, they're probably going to do even better once some of this goofiness in the market settles out, right? Just get interest rates where they're going. Let's be done with it. Fix the supply chain. Let's be done with it. And that's when you'll start to get your returns. So it's not a quick buck, but I think that there's opportunity here. All right. Who else we got on today? Sean, in your opinion, how will the market react to upcoming earnings? Heavy weighted stocks. So Apple's EPS estimates have been going up quite a bit, which is typically a good sign for that company. I'll show you here, just using Yahoo. So Apple was one that was, I think, a lot of people are starting to wonder about the growth stagnation. So you see single-digit growth. You're already up to 5% for 2023. And if we just look at the EPS trend for analysts, and Apple has a ton of people following the company. You're going 90 days ago, 567 up to 575. That's good. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's moving in the right direction. And now all of a sudden 2023 is starting to push too. I think I think they outperform. I really do. And I don't always feel that way about Apple. I would say I always expect them to perform. I did not see 2022 as an outperformance kind of situation, but the way things are going, it sure looks like analysts are onto something, that they're growing a little bit faster than projected. And while we're on that topic, because you asked about Google, same thing. Facebook, I'll say same thing. And in fact, Facebook, is arguably one of the better values if you just want to go straight up earnings per share, PE ratio, etc. Tesla, so I do not doubt at all that Tesla will keep growing, excuse me, continue to grow earnings per share and sales revenue. I think the catch is it's at a stretch valuation. So even though they're doing those awesome things, how much of a premium will the market pay? But will they keep printing money? I don't see how they wouldn't, right? They have yet to really flop on their face yet. That will be the interesting time. Guys like me have been waiting for them to flop on their face for literally years now, and it hasn't happened. So I'm done questioning it. I'll just say that I think that it's a premium multiple on that one. Lions AT&T is crushing it. He says, Stephanie on CNBC made a good point. Economy at 4 to 5% GDP can easily withstand 2.5% rates, and I agree with that. It's just the shock to the system, and we all knew it's coming, right? I don't think anyone on this board is particularly surprised. That's why I say, is there a science to just doing it? Because people are so daggone skittish. Can we just go to 1% or 0.5% instead of 0.25? Can we just get over the hump? Because 10 to 15 years ago, just scary that it's been that long, 10 to 15 years ago, like rate hikes up and down 0.25% was kind of a nothing burger. It had a little effect on stocks, but not like this, where they just crater under the whisper of it all. So I say jump in and do it. Costco getting destroyed. Sorry, I'm all over the board. Let me go in order. Trevor Johnson says projections for new solar installs are lower than previously expected. I think solar's in a little bit of short-term trouble. If you're interested in solar, you may get a nice situation here. Everything that I said earlier on this show, and then Trevor coming in with installs, that kickback thing for the average Joe residential user is huge. If you live in Florida, Arizona, Texas, you name it, to be able to sell your excess power back actually can help pay for your system. And now they're also kicking holes in, should you have it? I live in Ohio. Should you have it in Ohio where there's some snow? We don't get a lot of snow, but let's pretend we live in Michigan. Tons of snow, somewhat limited daylight. Will it ever make sense in Michigan? People are starting to ask that question, and it's not the resounding yes as it was a year ago when people were doing pie in the sky stories. So I think it's not that solar's bad, it's just like real people are discussing it now, people who are not trying to influence others. So take a look. If you've been waiting, you might be able to sneak into one of those, or the TAN ETF. but I wouldn't be in a big hurry to get there. I would just wait and see what this industry does over the next couple months. And then, okay, so Lion's talking about Costco, which was hot. Now, I always thought Costco was running hot. He says it's getting destroyed. Let's see. Year to date. So, yeah, it is getting hit. Minus 80 bucks. This was never really, to be expected, a PE of 42, at least not in my opinion. Let's see how bad it could get. 20 to see, maybe 30, 35 with their, now that they're growing more, maybe they can do a 35. And if you throw in, this EPS for now, what's 35 times 13? That would probably be my close to entry point. It's 455. So if I was going to buy Costco and I was waiting for a certain price, my price would be 455, given the fact that the market is going down right now. But long term, I don't think Lion, I think you just hold, right? Because they're just been kicking butt for so long. I don't know. All right, what else we got going on? Sean, Costco is always jam-packed. Valuation's expensive. And I guess like just similar to Apple's and whatnot. I think if you're in Costco, you're not worried about it going down. I think you just are riding it, right? I mean, that's the thing. It was funny because I just did the Microsoft video for tonight, and you have to do the catchy titles like is Microsoft a buy with Activision or whatever the hell I did. Microsoft conceivably is always a buy to some degree, at least since the cloud has been launched. But if you want to nickel and dime it and entry at the best possible time, then you can do like I did with Costco and get particular. However, if you own Microsoft for 5 years, 10 years, like some people have, there's no selling. There's no selling on Activision News. I don't know if you're buying on Activision News, but if you're riding that stock at share prices of $49 or something, these headlines don't even hit you. It's just like, oh, well, that's interesting. And that's hopefully where some of you guys are. With some of just the obvious stocks. So they just pay off over time and then you don't even care anymore. All right. Thoughts on Sofi? I think Sofi is probably in trouble with, not as a company. I think that they do some good things. I think they're in trouble with the fact that they're a bank, basically a bank, right? And now all of a sudden we wake up today and banks are under pressure. If there is a bright spot for Sofi, you would figure that interest rates, like all other banks, would help them make money. But is it going to $20? Or where do we start at? Okay, you started the year at 16. I was interested for a second at under 15. But I'm going to let it ride because there's so many banks. You see that EPS? There's so many banks you can buy that have an EPS. And the other day I used the example of Ally, who, let's see if they're getting hit. And there's way better banks than Ally. I just happen to be familiar with them. P ratio under 10, EPS of 8, $51 with a dividend. It's just hard for me in this market right now to really see the value in Sofi when you have upstart banks like Ally, which is basically an internet bank. And as I said the other day, what does Sofi do? Oh, well, they do savings accounts, investing, loans, and they have an app, right? What does Ally do? Savings, checking, investing, loans, they don't have as cool of an app. And that's about it, right? And now the app that Sofi has versus, call it Ally's shitty one, Ally's has $8 a share. Okay, so if you're an investor, I don't know, how bad you want a shiny app? That's the hard part. Derek's here talking about the hype train is over. Time to add blue chips, all industries, all sectors by the leaders. I would agree that, and my definition of leaders, at least of late, is earnings per share, like the example I just gave. Everyone has their own way, but if you don't have earnings, then I'm worried, and I have stocks that do not have earnings. All right, and what I will say about all of them and those stocks in general, I'm just not sure what your floor is. I own DraftKings. It's not going anywhere. I don't know what DraftKings floor is. There's nothing in that stock that says that at least the PE won't drop below 10 because there is no PE, right? And the rest of it is Twitter numbers that people do. And that's the fact of the matter. Now, I like DraftKings, and so I'm cool with it. It's a long-term run, and when the dust settles, if I have extra money later this year, then maybe I'll buy some shares if they're still cheap. But for now, I wouldn't buy a thing that doesn't have an EPS. And by the way, theoretically, across the board, the SPY, the QQQ, they all have their own version of an EPS, right? Because they represent certain companies and they're very top heavy at the moment, particularly QQQ. So you're looking for ETFs. Derek said blue chips. I'm saying QQQ or SPY or something. Those are all companies that have those funds all represent companies with earnings. Okay, ARK, for example, which I own, ARK does not. In fact, it probably represents companies, almost all of them don't have earnings, except for Tesla. But Tesla has a high valuation. So I don't even know that this environment, to me, this is a much more practical environment than what we saw a year-ish ago. And what I learned about myself is I don't operate very well in story mode. That we saw a year ago. I don't operate very well catching shooting stars. It's not a game that I've ever done. And obviously, given the fact that I lost some dollars last year, it's not a game I'm good at. So I'm going back to what I know, and that is earnings, and that is valuation, and that's a pretty time-tested approach across the board. All right, let's see. 2022 bull run isn't over. Totally agree. So all that sort of negative sentiment that we talked about, I think we come out of this by the end of the year once we're accustomed to these changes, and it runs from there. The other thing that a lot of people talk about is, and this is probably so true, but I just don't have the background to tell you how true. So there's a concept, of course, that the interest rates go up, retail investors get floored, right? All your stocks go down, and eventually, slowly over time, people give up, right? The AMC folks go away, GameStop, it's just battered so much that people just give up. And in today's day, they have opportunities to go to crypto, to go to NFTs, etc. So let's pretend that, I'm just going to make up numbers, 40% of retail leaves the market over the next 30, 60 days. And obviously they take their money, so the stock prices come down. And that's exactly when someone like Warren Buffett or a hedge fund comes in and buys, and things start to go back up again, right? Now that's oversimplification, But it really does kind of make sense, in my opinion. There's no hurry, certainly not at this point, for these guys to deploy $1 billion, into the market, buying SPY, QQQ, Apple, whatever. There's no real big hurry for that. But when it does get low enough and they do buy and they set up the bottom, retail will have taken their losses and crawled back in their corner. Wall Street will be very happy, and the stocks will start going up again. The quality ones, anyway. So we'll see how much that's true, but that's how generation after generation after generation ends up still in the same economic classification, because you get in these games and then they get chopped and then they leave, they take their ball and go home, but they take it at a loss, and then the other guys come in and say, all right, you took the froth out for me, I'll buy from here, and ride it up. And it's sad, but it is true. All right, let's see, TD Bank for the win. All right, so there's a bank that must be doing well. Lion says, Kathy Wood cheated on all of us. Kurt Davis says, wow. Curtis Davis, thoughts on Ford earnings? I don't follow the company like super closely outside of the fact that it's obviously a popular stock, so you do get quite a few headlines coming through. It struck me as slightly overvalued when I saw this, but let's see what they think. So if you got $2 next year, by the end of the year, you're basically at a forward PE of 12 today, right? And there's a lot of games that have changed, but historically, yeah, you're running way hotter than that. Now, maybe Ford over delivers, but this single-digit PE, right? Like historically single digits without question. And so I would say I think Ford is doing some good things, and I think they've got a lot of street momentum. Those new Broncos are super cool. I saw there's a couple people around me that have them. And then obviously whatever's going to happen with EV vehicles in Ford. But I don't think that I buy it at 24, just me. And I don't know how much higher it goes in this particular environment. So, my 2 cents. Chamath under some heat. Yeah, whoops. And I don't know, man. I'll tell you what, like a year or two ago, before the pandemic, I really enjoyed watching that guy come on and do interviews and stuff. And something's different. He's not all there anymore. He's turning into more of a sideshow. But yeah, he made some mistakes publicly. Ismail, Etsy at 164. I think Etsy's in getting closer. They're in a video I just did, and I think I said under 150. They're actually up today, interestingly enough. Their earnings don't come out until late February. Should be a good earnings report. But in the wake of where we stand right now, I would be patient. But I like the stock. I think it's a good stock. Lions talking. So I like the Eagles. Lion likes the Cowboys. Both of our teams got eliminated. KC Chiefs moved on. I live in Cincinnati, and from a hometown perspective, the Bengals, it was a lot of fun to watch that game, and I'm gonna take them as my team from here on out since the Eagles are out. Eagles were never really supposed to do anything, so I was excited. I was sitting down ready to watch the game, and it kind of turned out like we thought it would. All right. Let's see. I lost a spot here. We already talked SoFi. Should we keep buying dips or wait from the 28th, which is the Fed meeting, I believe? And I don't think, Mr. Mugai, I believe the Fed meeting is the 26th. I could be wrong. Let me just do something real quick. So I had it. Well, this is the FOMC. I don't know if it might be different. But so I have it as 25th and 26th with the press conference being on the 26th. As far as can you buy today, you know, I think everybody should consider a little piece here and there. But I don't know. Does anyone here imagine the market is going to go up over the next 7 days? Like net up, right? I think that there'll be green days, but I think net increase, I'm not seeing it. So I would keep saving money to buy more is how I would do it. That's how I'm doing it. And that alludes to Lion's Point. Sell your greens, add your cash, or just hold. Mostly hold. And staying focused wherever possible, buying, like lowering cost basis on anything that has an earnings, anything that has an EPS, right? That's where I'm going. And honestly, freaking tax time and stuff, like I have a lot of other money things to do to figure out. So I'm going to be a little strapped. I'll be a little strapped till I figure out where taxes land at the old 40 finance household this year. So, but yeah, I'm not personally starting any new positions with the exception of regular QQQ because it has so many names, right? If you had a correction, a big one, and you're like, should I get Apple or Netflix or whatever? Since I don't own any of those except for Amazon, I feel like buying the Qs is a good start to at least participate in whatever correction happens, if it happens. All right, Trevor, don't forget SoFi owns Galileo, not just a bank, online banking infrastructure. Good call. So they have other interests outside of just banking. Eric Lee, what market event would indicate the turnaround for small cap tech? Small caps are so screwed. And I think I said this the other day, they're just so screwed right now. I have zero interest. I'm holding the ones that I hold, aka Rocket, Magnite, stuff like that, little onesie twosies. But I'm just not touching them. I'm just looking away because they're so screwed right now. And I like those companies, and we'll just see where it lands. But it is just an absolute killing floor in small caps, and I don't know what the turnaround is. I think the turnaround is probably nailing their earnings calls and getting some inflows instead of outflows is all I can figure, to be honest with you. All right, a couple more, and then I got to roll. Canadian stocks, Chestad and Lion should get together. Canadian stocks, banks, insurance, and REITs are up today. Wish I had more. That's interesting for Canadian. And then here's Lion, who is huge, lives in Canada, so it makes it easy. All right, guys, I'm going to roll. It's almost 4 o'clock. Let's all take another quick look and see if there's anything you want to buy today. I'm going to have to stare at it myself for a second. Maybe I'll just put 1 share of QQQ in the books since we are down, whatever, almost 3% in NASDAQ. Just keep building that one up over time. But hope you guys are doing well, and I got a Microsoft video for you tonight if you're still awake. So we'll see you on that one. Take it easy.